Good evening, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Sunday Night Live. I'm just getting my chair a little bit more comfortably. Hope everyone's doing well. It's September 19th, and we're heading into the final couple of corners of 2021, and what a year it has been. I hope everyone is well. Hope everyone has had a good week. It's been mostly a good week here, but the weekend has ended on a few sad notes, which I will get into very shortly. So consequently, I'm kind of not necessarily in the happiest mood today, and I'm just kind of overwhelmed by a few things. So I hope you guys will bear with me. I hope you guys will be kind to me because it's been a bit of a weird couple of days, maybe 48 hours. So some of you will know what I'm talking about. So like I said, I'm going to get into that in just a minute. But I wanted to see who's here first of all. And first of all, Rich Cresswell, one of my newer moderators, was first in the door. Although he can't actually be here tonight because he has to be up super duper early in the morning. So, Rich, if you're watching the replay, thanks so much for all of your help and your support. You have been a great little addition and an asset to my little team here. So thank you. I appreciate you a lot. And he says, remember to tag Jonny with your question, type at, and then Jonny Lipsham Studios so you can see your question. Yes, that's how it works. That's how it works over on Jonny Gibe's channel. And it is actually just easier for me to be able to pick out questions if I see my name highlighted like that. It makes it easier to kind of discern between what's a question and what's you guys kind of just talking amongst yourselves. So please do that. If you have a question that you would like to direct to me, then please do make sure that you do that, and my mod team will help with that, and any questions that I missed, they will also help with as well. So if I don't get to your question and you've asked it early on, then please do simply just retype it or copy paste it. I don't mind what you do, and that way I make sure that I get everybody's questions covered. So Billy Morgan's here, Thomas over in the Philippines is here, John Lake is here, Ken Moss, one of my mods, is here, Tony Stringer is here, Kyle is here, Just Bob, one of my other awesome moderators, is here, Kevin's Guitar Stories is here, Music to Motion Mike is here. Awesome. John Hawk is here. He says, yeah, everybody. Yeah. To you too. And Mike at Peace Valley Audio is referencing a joke that I posted a couple of hours ago. Your delay hee hoo to you too. Glad he's here. He's one of my other mods. And Secret Squirrel is here as well. He's saying hello to everybody, which is great. Alps Media is here as well, which is awesome. Louis over at Alps is awesome. He's a fantastic support to myself and to Jonny Gibe as well. And he sells a lot of Presonus gear, so if you want a good price and a good deal on Presonus gear and you live in the United States, he's your man. He's the guy to go to. I'll be honest and say that straight up. So check him out. Excuse me. Mika Hanny's here as well. Ray, looking at Nicolason. I nearly got all of the letters of your name completely in the wrong order there, Roy, so I apologize. He says, good evening, I can't stay till the end, but it's nice to be here for a while. It is late here in Norway. Yes, it'll be about 1 a.m., 10 past 1 in the morning for you. So you are extra special, awesome, and covered in extra special layer of awesome dust, or whatever it might be. Let's see. Just Bob asked me, how is the close person you know doing with COVID-19? That's another story that I am actually tonight not going to get into, if you don't mind. But I will have much more to say on that particular subject, probably next week, to be honest. Mikan says, very sad. R.I.P. Mats Paulson. Yeah, I heard about that earlier this evening. Sad news indeed. Definitely very sad news. So, I don't actually know how expected that was or not. But yeah, it is pretty sad news that he has died today. Billy is here and he's saying hello to everybody as well. Alright, cool. So let's get into the show. Now it's going to be our usual Q&A show, but I do want to kind of give it a little bit of a focus, which will be Studio One 5.4. So if you have updated to Studio One 5.4, awesome. I hope you are having a fantastic experience with it. But if you haven't updated yet too, then this will give you a chance to ask some questions about how some of the features work and whether you know it's a good thing to update to 5.4. And all of that can be discussed tonight. I'm very happy to do that. But we're going to start the show a little bit on a sad note, and I don't like to start a show on a sad note, but many of you, I would imagine a good lot of you, there's only 13 people here, it's a small gathering tonight, and that's okay. But many of you of the 13 that are here will have known Nick Critchley at some point. Nick was the co-founder of the Studio One Sessions group, and he helped run some of the awesome mixing contests and mixing challenges. They were all his brainchild. He came up with those. He went and did the research and found the stem files and got them all together and provided people with a lot of mixing experience, which they otherwise wouldn't have got, especially for those that were kind of beginners. And he set up that whole group and did a fantastic job of providing a place where people can get mixing tips, mixing advice, and a place where they could post their mixes in progress to get some encouragement, some advice, and some support from other Studio One mixing folks. And it's a great idea, and it's a really successful group. So he was one of the co-founders of that group. He was an administrator in the main PreSonus Studio One group, and he was also one of the moderators of the PreSonus forum as well, the PreSonus community forum, and was also a thoroughly all-round great guy and relatively a classical Englishman. And it was a great pleasure to know him, but very sadly he has died quite suddenly. However, he had been unwell for a while, but still it has left me with a complete head spin, because I had only been talking to Nick just on Friday, I think. And so to find out on Saturday that he had died completely, my head just went, and has been that way ever since. Because when I was talking to him, he seemed to be in fine fettle. He seemed to be in a good place and was very talkative and was very enthusiastic and had a lot of good things to say. And so I really was not expecting to hear the news that he had died. So he leaves a pretty big hole in the PreSonus family, to be honest, because he was incredibly helpful, he was incredibly patient, and he always had a good thing to say to people. and he always had good advice and wisdom, particularly when it came to resolving Studio One issues and issues with some of our hardware, like some of our mixers. He was incredibly knowledgeable about, and it was a great pleasure to have him around and to have known him personally and to consider him a friend. So tonight's show is dedicated to his memory, and so, you know, I would very much like us to kind of celebrate the good things and celebrate the impact that he had upon many of us, myself included. So yeah. I apologize that my thoughts are a little rambling, but I'm still totally stunned by it. I forgot to stop the track. I just noticed that it was still kind of running in the background. Sorry about that. So Music Motion says, we totally understand. Several of us knew someone that passed recently, and suddenly that was part of this group. I'm sure we'll, yeah. Nick was he was one of the most helpful people in the Studio One groups. He was pretty much ever present, and you know, I would regularly pop in because I'm a bit of a late guy. I work late into the night sometimes on stuff for clients because I have a day job at Presonus, so my client work has to be done in the evenings, and so I would occasionally pop in at the end of working on stuff at like maybe 2 o'clock in the morning, and find that he is in the thick of it, helping people resolve Studio One issues, and pretty successfully. There's a lot of the threads that he was on where, you know, it's just like solved. Nick had the right answer. So yeah, a guy who's very generous with his time and with his knowledge, and you know, he was quite a quiet fella, quite softly, gently spoken, and yet, you know, he always had something good to say, and he had a great sense of humor as well. Pretty dry sense of humor. And on Monday nights, the forum moderators get together and we discuss issues, and we discuss kind of things that are going on in there, and you know, how we can keep the forum a good place for people to hang out and to post their issues and discuss various things, particularly when there's a new update that comes out, just like the Studio One 5.4 update that is extremely brand new and recent. So there's a discussion thread there that we put in place, and so, you know, we moderators, we get together every week to kind of discuss kind of things that are going on in those threads, and Nick was a part of that group, and so it was always a pleasure to hear his voice and to have him contributing in those meetings every week. So yeah, he was present in a lot of things that we have been doing, and so he's gonna leave a pretty large vacuum for somebody or some other people to fill. Who that will be is yet to be found out, I guess. So Billy says, moment of silence. Yes, absolutely. We should all take a moment to thank God for Nick, and be thankful for the contribution that he made to the Presonus community, and a real advocate for our products and, you know, the ethos of the company. So yeah, so tonight's show will be in his honor, in his memory. So with all of that said, I would very much like to get your questions tonight. So if you've got questions, then please do put the @Jonny Lipsham Studios in first, and then tap your question, and then I can get to it. And it means I hopefully will not miss any, because I would very much like to not miss your questions. So get typing away, folks. One of the things that has most amazed me this week is that just 4 days ago, I put up my Studio One 5.4 overview video, and already it's had, how many views has it had? I need to go and check. But last I checked, it had absolutely thousands of views. So I'm going to go and take a look and see how many views it has had. And it's already had nearly 6,000 views. That's crazy. 6,000 views in just under 5 days. That's crazy. Certainly by the standards of my output, that's just bonkers. Because all of my overview videos for updates to Studio One get a lot of views. They just do. But, you know, maybe like 10, 12,000 views over maybe 5 or 6 months. But in this case, this is like 5,800 views in 5 days. That's like 1,000 per day. That's bonkers. So if you've not been and checked that video out yet, please go and do that. I go over some of the new features, the ones at least I can demonstrate, like the ones for that are not Mac specific, like the M1 stuff. I can't demonstrate any of that, obviously, because this is a Windows PC. I do have a Mac, it's over there, so I've been extensively testing stuff. However, I can't test the M1 stuff because that is not an M1 Mac, it's an Intel. So unfortunately couldn't be part of testing all of that M1 stuff. So if you have any questions about M1 compatibility and your third-party plugins, there are 2 knowledge base articles in the Presonus knowledge base that you should definitely read. I would even go so far as to say that they are essential, required reading before you update to Studio One 5.4 if you are on a Mac M1 computer. Because although Studio One 5.4 itself is now native, it now has native M1 compatibility, which a lot of people have been asking for quite a while since the M1s became available. Your third-party plugins might not yet be ready for M1 compatibility. So while Studio One will work great, you might find that none of your third-party plugins will load up, or maybe some from some manufacturers will, but a whole lot of them won't. And that's because a lot of manufacturers they're just not there yet. And as far as I'm aware, only Digital Performer 11, Studio One 5.4, I believe those 2 plus Logic are the only DAWs that are native M1 compatible. Pro Tools isn't, Cubase isn't, Nuendo isn't, Reaper isn't. There's a whole bunch of DAWs that are just nowhere near there yet. So it's kind of us. Logic, obviously, because Logic is Apple, so it kind of goes without saying. So really, there's just, you know, you can kind of discount Logic from that point of view. And then there's Digital Performer and Studio One. So basically, those are the first 2 DAWs to be natively M1 compatible. So I think that's a pretty important thing to be aware of. So I know a lot of people, they just like to just go and update immediately. And they just go, hey, a new Studio One update, and all these features look awesome, so I'll just go and update. And they don't really think about, actually, hang on a minute, my third-party plugins might not be ready for this yet. So I would suggest that you contact the manufacturers of your third-party plugins. So if that's Waves or FabFilter or Plugin Alliance or whomever, Acoustica Audio, whomever they are, go and contact their support teams and say, hey, come on guys, when are you going to be M1 compatible? Because, you know, my DAW is, so come on, let's get with the program here. And if you give them the hurry up, then hopefully they will release their updates that will make them M1 compatible, and then you can go ahead. But if you have updated to 5.4 on a Mac M1, best thing to do is just continue running Studio One 5.4 in Rosetta mode. And if you have the AU versions of your third-party plugins, they should work. They should work on the M1 in Studio One 5.4. So if you've got AU versions, they should work. I say should because I can't guarantee that all of them will work, but certainly a good number of them should work. But VST2, VST3, for a lot of plugin manufacturers, they just will not work on an M1, right, in native mode. But in Rosetta mode, they should do. So you should be able to just switch over. And if you don't know how to do that, like I said, we have a knowledge base article. I can go and get that for you. Let's go and do that. Hang on. I'm going to go over to the knowledge base. And I'll go and get you those articles. And I'll put them in the chat. So it's basically, if you go to the technical support section of the of support.personas.com, the top two articles are support for Apple M1 Macs, everything you need to know. And then the second one is how to switch from native Silicon support to Rosetta mode. So I'm going to grab both of those and I'm going to put those in the chat for you guys that are using M1s. So there's the support for M1 article. And here is the how to switch back to Rosetta mode. So both of those should help you out. Okay, Secret Squirrel has like a couple of questions, which I'll get to in just a second. So that's really important that you pay attention to those if you are one of those people that has an M1 Mac. In fact, if you have a brand new Mac from like the last 12 months, it probably is gonna be M1. All right, let's get to these other questions. Okay, Secret Squirrel says, 2 MIDI questions. Considering a digital piano tied or drawing MIDI notes, is it possible for Studio One to apply chord track to notes as played versus notes in MIDI track? Is it possible for Studio One to use keyboard to write no-note MIDI expression, so velocity modulation, that kind of thing, to pre-existing MIDI parts whilst excluding pitch info? Those are two really, really great questions. The first one, is it possible for Studio One to apply chord track to notes as played? Yes, if you have your MIDI track and you've already played in your chords or whatever, but you want that track to now follow the chord track, you can do that. All you need to do, let me open a song that actually is using the chord track. Hang on just a minute. I had a song that I actually used for this very thing. Where did I put it? Where's it gone? Is it this one? I have so many songs where I'm just testing things for customers that... No, it's not that one, so this one can get closed. No, it's not that one. Alright, let's just do a new song, instead of wasting time trying to search for one. Alright, so... completely blank new song here. So let's go and grab something like Presence, and we'll use the Concert Grand, which, by the way, you can get from the Persona shop. This is a separate add-on, so we'll grab that. And this just sounds really nice. And what we'll do is we'll just we'll double click this here like that. We'll open the chord track as well because we want that open. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to play some chords into Studio One. Let's get that open. Let's slow that down a bit. There we go. All right, so I'm just going to play some chords, and then I'm going to put in to the chord track some new chords and watch what happens. So let's say I go with yeah, I'll do something like that. All right, there we go. Oh, don't quite know why that opened, but that's fine. You can hide that. For some reason I have takes to layers on. Why do I have takes to layers on? I don't know. That's okay. We just turn that off. I don't know why that was there. But that's okay. Doesn't matter. So I've now got my chords. But what I really want to do is I want to put in my own chords in the chord track. That's fine. So I'm just going to double click each one of these. Oops. Like that. Now, all of those say C at the moment, but that's okay. We're going to change a few of these. So we'll make this one C, A minor 7. And we'll make this one F major 7. And we'll make this one, let's say G. Yeah, let's make that G13. No, let's make that G7. And then this one, we'll go back to C. Then this one, we'll make E minor 7. And then we'll go A7. And then this will go to D. Major 7. Then we'll go let's see, E minor 7. A minor 7. G7, C. All right, so there we go. Now, I've put all of those chords in, even though I've already played something completely different. This is what I played. So I played something totally different. And so what I'm going to do now is I am going to change this so that it's actually following the chord track. So we will go with parallel for now. Didn't like that. I don't know why. Alright, so I now have the chord track completely playing something different to what I actually played. So that's one of the more powerful things. Let's see, let's go back to the questions. Possible, I'm looking to do more expensive compounded stuff if possible. Not pre-recorded chord track. MIDI as played. Oh, you mean as you are literally playing it, you want the chord track to literally follow what you're, kind of like spell your chords out and then put them into the chord track. I don't think we can do that yet, but there have been some, considerable advances with the chord track. I mean, you can actually see in the event editor what your chords are with the new chord input. So if I just play this, you can see what the current chord is here. But if I just play something on here, it'll tell you what your input chord is. So I know that's A7, D7, and it says E minor add flat 9 over G. No, that is not correct. That is G13. So there's some chords that it doesn't quite get yet, but a lot of the basic ones. It gets all of those kind of chords. So, but what it won't do at the moment is, as you're recording, fill out the chord track for you. Doesn't do that as yet. But, one step at a time. Who knows how it will develop. But the cool thing is, one of the other cool things that you can do is, let's actually get rid of everything I just played. So all of that is now gone. We've still got the chords from the chord track. And let's say I can't be bothered to actually sit and actually play the chords that I've just written into the chord track here. Well, I can select all of these and drag them down. And now what you get is this. Now it does do a little of what I call hedge hopping. Don't know why it does it. And what's going on here? Yeah, I don't quite know why it does this. But it does. But there's a very simple solution. And that is we can transpose. So I'm going to shove those down an octave because it plays them too high. So that's pretty powerful. I can just completely create a guide keyboard part just from the chord track. But kind of doing the other thing you can do is you can also view the chord display. This is pretty cool. So if I set that to input, So the chord display itself is actually pretty cool for those kind of things. Ronald says here, he says the MIDI message includes the note number and velocity, so you'd have to play the right notes to have the desired velocity applied to the notes. So you'd be replaying the part. Yeah, he's kind of got a little bit of a point here. Well, let's get to your other question about expression and velocity and that kind of thing. I don't actually know about that. Because I'm not really a MIDI expert. I just kind of use it to create guide parts, which then get replaced by real, actual audio instruments. So I don't actually know if it's possible for Studio One to use keyboard to write just MIDI expression, including velocity modulation and that kind of thing, to a pre-existing MIDI part. Yeah, I don't actually know on that one, but I think maybe Mike at Music to Motion might have an answer to that, but I don't think I do. Lollipop Girl is here. He says, she says, hello. For some reason, I was waiting for the 7 o'clock live stream. I've never done a 7 o'clock live stream. Because that would be 1 o'clock in the morning for me. So no, that's just never going to happen. I only ever do 6 p.m. Central, and it's always 6 p.m. Central, whether that's daylight saving time or Central Standard Time. It's always 6 p.m. And I just move, my time accordingly. So for a couple of weeks in the year, my show is at 11 p.m. UK, and then for the rest of the year, it is midnight. So, yes. So I hope that answers that kind of question, those questions that you had there. Ironweed Studios is here. Hello. Glad to see you here. And yes, you have your tardy slip. Good. Yes, you need it. You're a naughty boy. I'm kidding. Let's see. 13th chords are unlucky. Actually, 13th chords are gorgeous. I love them. They used to have a really gorgeous sound, and we had a little bit of Fender Rhodes with some phaser effect going on there, but I can put it over the piano. Easy enough to do. So yeah, those are always fun. Cleon is here. He says, late to the party, but I'm present. Yes, you need a tardy slip as well. So, any other questions, folks? Because we've got about 15 minutes thereabouts left. Otherwise, I'm just going to keep drumming randomly on my Studio Live mixer. But yeah. Questions. I'll take another drink of tea whilst you guys type in some questions. And we'll see what we get. So we have about 15 people here tonight. So it's a small little gathering. That's okay. We normally peak around about 30 or so. So we've got about half of the people here today. I don't quite know why we're so short on numbers this week, but that's okay. Sometimes it's going to be like that. So any other questions, folks? Otherwise, we will wrap this show early. Cleon says, busy mixing a live jazz set for streaming. Awesome. Yes, jazz is kind of what I do, and that's kind of my professional gig, and has been since I was about 14. So I I've been in the business a long time. So that's pretty cool. Any other questions, folks? But those questions from Secret Squirrel were awesome questions, for sure. Mostly because I could only partly answer them. But that's alright. Don't mind that. Just Bob said, never met Nick, but reading many of his answers in forum, he seemed very polite, knowledgeable, kind, and caring. Yeah, absolutely. A lot of people would echo that. I'm going back up to the top of the chat to see if I've missed any questions, but I don't think there are any. So, Dear Creek Audio has just arrived. That's my friend Chris. He says, I've just arrived with 2 dogs, so that's 3 more. Yeah, normally I don't like to massage the figures, but on this occasion I will gladly add your 2 dogs. But, Chris, if your dogs have any Studio One questions, let me know. John Hawk says, my Sphere membership is up for renewal. How does that process work? When you get to that point where you're getting the email reminder saying, hey, your membership is up for renewal, you can actually just go to your account and I can't really show you because I don't have that kind of account, but what you should be able to do is you should be able to go to account and plan, and then there should be some options for you when you go to account and plan, where you can renew your membership. There should be something there. Let me see something for a second. And see if I can actually give you a more specific answer. But I mean, so if you don't see a renewal option, then the other thing you can do is you can go to shop.presonus.com and just go and purchase another month or another year or whatever it is you had, and that will be added to whatever time you have left, and then you should be good to go. But I'm pretty sure you can do it from inside your sphere.presonus.com account, in account, and then click on plan, and you should be able to do that. But I can't really show you that because I don't have those options for various very obvious reasons. Ounce Media says you will get a notice. Just click the notice and it will take you to renewal. There you go. There's your answer. You will get a notice. Yeah. Dear Creek, with a very entertaining question. He says, any news on a 5.5 update? Hearing a fair amount of computer crashes with those on 5.4. Actually, having worked in, I work in PreSonus support. We've seen some crashes, but most of those crashes are actually to do with third-party plugins. Studio One itself doesn't really have a whole lot of issues. It's actually pretty darn stable. Most of the action is with the Mac M1s and people updating to Studio One 5.4 because it now has native compatibility for the Mac M1 chips and finding that their plugins don't work. It's a little bit different. But that's certainly from a support point of view, that's where most of the action currently is. And essentially there's not a lot you can do other than to just switch back to Rosetta mode. That's it. But if you're on a PC, you should be fine. Occasionally doors crash, occasionally plugins crash. It's kind of par for the course with any software, whether it's Studio One, Pro Tools, Logic, Cubase, Nuendo, Reaper, Audacity. They all crash. They all have issues. I mean, for goodness sake, even Microsoft Word crashes. I know because I've experienced it. I've been typing up a document and boof, it goes. And then, it's a pain in the butt to try and recover that particular document that I was working on. But yes, there are some people that are experiencing crashes. A lot of people, an awful lot of people, the vast majority of folks that have updated are experiencing no issues whatsoever. Especially those that are not on Mac M1s. If they're on Intel-based Macs, they don't have any issues. Most Windows users don't have any issues either. But yeah. Chris says, I agree with third party usually being the issue, but popular ones like Waves, TuneTrack, etc. shouldn't have an issue, you'd think. Well, that's on them, to be honest. The fact that Waves only with Studio One only support version 12 VST3 of their plugins means that if you have anything less than that, so if you have Waves 11 or Waves 10 or Waves 9, they're not supported in Studio One. So if they crash, there's nothing you can do apart from update to version 12 and make sure you're using VST3. However, on a Mac M1, those plugins are not going to work because Waves do not support native Mac M1 currently, as do TuneTrack, as do FabFilter, this is the case for, I would say, a good 80 to 90% of third-party plugin manufacturers. They are not ready for the Mac M1s yet, which I find astonishing. Personally, but that's just my own personal opinion. I find that astonishing. Ken says, I have not worked in my studio for some time now. Should I make sure all my plugins are updated before updating to 5.4? Yes, absolutely. Make sure all of your third-party plugins are fully up to date. And I would also, make a quick check of the manufacturer's website and just check that they fully support Studio One 5. That's what I would recommend, because I know that there are some plugin manufacturers, they just don't test their plugins in Studio One. They don't. Why? I don't know. It's beyond me. But they don't. And for example, Slate Digital, they are one of the companies that don't. They just don't test their plugins in Studio One. They test them in Cubase, they test them in Logic, they test them in Pro Tools, and that's about it. They don't even test them in Reaper. So, if Slate Digital plugins are what is crashing in Studio One, really, to be honest, anytime Studio One crashes, it should, for the most part, generate a crash report. And pretty much the crash report should be able to identify what has caused the crash. Now, sometimes it won't. Sometimes the crash report gives you next to no information. Depends upon how the crash has happened. But, a good portion of the time, a crash report will tell you exactly what thread has crashed, what caused the crash. And, most of the time, it's a third-party plugin that does it. And the only thing you can do, really, is you can do two things. Number one, you can try uninstalling that plugin and then do a fresh install from your user account. Don't just go and grab the download of the installer that you used before, because if there's something wrong with that installation, all you're going to do is just perpetuate the problem. So go get a fresh download from your user account and then open the affected song, the song that crashed, and then test and see, does the crash now stop, or does it still happen? And if it does still happen, then you will need to go to your for whichever plugin manufacturer that is. You'll have to go to them and say, hey, I have tested with this plugin. It's crashing in Studio One. I have done a fresh install of that. I've also done a fresh install of Studio One. It's still crashing. So take a look. And it's on them to fix that, because we can't really address third-party plugins because we don't have access to their code base for obvious reasons. Let's see. Deer Creek says, I've had more crashes on 5.4 than I have the entire time I've used Studio One. My first year or two is almost flawless. Well, you know, what you can do is you can make a support ticket and send us your crash reports, and we'll look at them, and we'll see if we can find out what's caused the crash. It could be you've got a third-party plugin that's just not compatible or just needs updated. It could be as simple as that. Let's see, what else do we have here? Secret Squirrel says, for people having problems with plugins, are any of them attempting with the current version of Audio Gridder? If not, they may want to take a peek. Maybe, I don't know. Cleon says, I am a Slate beta tester. I test their plugins in Studio One. Good for you. Good for you. I'm glad. I'm glad there's at least one person that is testing Slate plugins in Studio One. That's great to know. But generally speaking, I don't think that they do. Or at least I don't think that they have a lot of coverage. You know, they don't have very many of their beta folks that test on Studio One. I think most of them are Pro Tools folks or, you know, those kind of things. Ronald says the M1 plugin issues could be due to Apple approval process. Maybe. Again, that's going to be on the third-party plugin manufacturers to kind of sort that out. It could be that the plugin, you know, the plugins themselves are actually ready to go, but they can't be released until you know, they are Apple approved. I don't know how it works. But that is a good point. Mike from Peace Valley Audio says, all these third-party plugins issues people have anymore is just another reason I don't use them as much anymore or keep as many. It's a headache to keep track of all of those plugins. Yeah, I agree. I have quite a few third-party plugins, but you know what? I don't have hundreds. I know people that have thousands of them. You know, they'll have 50 different LA2As. They'll have another 60 1176 compressor plugins. I'm just like, why do you need all of those? You don't. You need one of each. You just need one of each. That's all you need. Maybe two of each. Maybe, you know, in the case of the 1176, you want the black face and you want the blue face. Great, because those are two kind of different, unique models of those particular compressors. But you don't need 50. No, you just don't. I think it's folly to have thousands of plugins, to be honest. Unless you're a beta tester for those manufacturers, in which case, fair enough. But really, if you're just a mix engineer, you don't need thousands of plugins. Roy says, I would like to have a floating window for marker locations in Studio One, like to have in Pro Tools. You can, let me see. Let me open the marker track. And I'm going to put a marker in there. I'm going to put a marker in there. And I'm going to put a marker in there. And I'll put one in there. Just for fun. And now I'll go up to the marker track. If you are... Excuse me. With the inspector open, you can select any of these tracks. So I can have the chord track, and I can see all of these here. And then in the marker track, I can see all of these here. I can see exactly where they're located. So the end is bar 6. Or is this... it's actually the 6th marker. But it's not... It doesn't actually give you the specific location. But you can add and you can take away markers, and you can, you know, you can jump to markers like this. You can make a totally new song by just putting all the chords in completely the wrong order. But yeah, you can see the marker track. You can see the marker track exposed in the inspector. Doesn't tell you exactly where each marker is located, but you do have the marker track, so you can actually see at the top here where your markers are. So we've got Marker number 2 is at bar 4. 3 is at bar 8. 4 is at bar 10. 5 is bar 12. And then somewhere along here at the end, there you go, bar 129 is where the end marker is, which I've just moved. So that's not what I wanted to do. I wanted to press that one. There we go. And there you go. So that's pretty much how that works. So I hope that that helps. But yeah, it doesn't have a floating window exactly, but you do have a track at the top that shows you where all your markers are. What else do we have? Cleon says, I also beta test for SynchroArts. Cool. And some other companies. So I do get to report on them. That's also very good to know, Cleon. Thanks for letting us know that. And Mike at Peace Valley Audio says, gotta go. Bedtime for the bus driver. Have a good night. Great show. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. And with that, really, we're at the end of the show because it is now 1 a.m. But thank you for all of your comments and your questions. The ones that we have had have been really, really good. Deer Creek says, I understand not having thousands of plugins, but Studio One doesn't have Omnisphere, Killer, Mid-Side EQ, so to limit only to Studio One Native isn't the most creative. Actually, I disagree. You can be extremely creative with just the native Studio One plugins. Yes, you're not going to necessarily have a mid-side EQ, but you know what? You can use the channel, you can use the splitter plugin, and you can do mid-side processing that way. You can do plenty of stuff. And as for a killer orchestra, I would say what we have right now is we have the Persona Symphonic Orchestra, and they're actually pretty good. It's low budget, I agree. It's not going to be a $2,000 symphonic orchestra with, you know, multiple microphone placements and multiple different samples, but it still sounds pretty good and will definitely get the job done. But you can certainly make a record with just the Pro EQ, the compressor, analog delay, and room reverb. You can. I know because I have done it. And the client with whom I worked with for that particular record was exceedingly happy with the results, and I got paid. So everybody's happy, and that's all it is. That's all it's about. It's, you know, it's about putting out good quality music that sounds great, and you can do that with just what is inside Studio One. You absolutely can. And if you can't, I don't think it's the plugins that are the problem. And that's all I'm going to say on that subject. And as Cleon points out, the Fat Channel is killer. It absolutely is. The Fat Channel is epic. Especially if you get the whole Fat Channel collection, you get a whole bunch of EQs and compressors that are very nicely modeled on actual hardware. So they are definitely worth getting into, to be honest. But so you can absolutely make a very, very good record, and I'm going to amend what I said there about just using the Pro EQ, the compressor, and I would add the Fat Channel into that for sure. So, you know, just 5 plugins, you can make a record that is absolutely killer. You know, if the performances are good, if the quality of the recordings is good, and the arrangement of the song is good, and the song itself is well crafted, well written, then you only need 5 plugins to do the job and get a great mix and get a great sounding record. And if you cannot do that, then it's not the DAW and it's not the plugins that are the problem. It's something else in the chain. So there you go. That's the end of the show, folks. Thanks a lot for coming, and thanks a lot for your questions. And I will see you on Wednesday for Songwriting Simplified over on Jonny's channel. So I forgot to switch over back to this view. So until then, folks, I bid you a very good night. Good night.